Why Blackrock Depths is the greatest MMORPG dungeon of all time. Because it's true. I mean, this is obviously very, very true. Everybody knows this is true. So we'll watch this, okay? BRD was amazing.
Dungeons have always been a staple of the MMORPG genre.
Absolutely.
The idea of exploring ancient caverns, slaying mythical beasts, and looting weapons of legend is epic fantasy at its finest. And from a gameplay perspective, dungeons have always been a convenient mechanism to drive group-oriented content. But among the thousands of dungeons the genre has seen over the past 2 decades, one particular dungeon still remains a cut above the rest. I'm of course referring to World of Warcraft's Blackrock Depths.
Yes.
An underground city home to the Dark Iron Dwarves, BRD is a masterpiece of game design, whose standards have yet to be met even 15 years later. In this video, we'll be analyzing the genius behind the Dark Iron City and why many players, myself included, consider it to be the greatest MMO dungeon of all time.
Well, they don't consider
Before
it
we
to
can
be,
understand the brilliance behind BRD's design, we must first examine vanilla dungeon philosophy as a whole. The original World of Warcraft dungeons were vastly different to the 5-mans of today. The old instances felt like
they're not built for speedrunning. Like, every dungeon nowadays is built for speedrunning. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I get kind of tired of that. Like, they're all built for Mythic Plus. There's never anything expansive.
Actual places in the world, and could draw players in with more than just flashy mechanics. They often included hidden encounters, epic quests, and special loot drops that gave them a unique identity. But even by vanilla standards, Blackrock Depths was a dungeon like no other. Boasting nearly 20 bosses across 18 different rooms, BRD was simply massive in both scope and scale. While most dungeons had around 6 or 7 quests, BRD had 41. More impressively, the zone's content spanned a whopping 12 levels from 48 to 60. This means that Blackrock Depths was relevant content for virtually half the game. Just that point alone is enough to make BRD one of the grandest dungeon experiences in gaming, but its size is just the beginning. Behind this monolithic beast of an instance was a plethora of secret bosses, extravagant events, brilliant level design, epic lore, and juicy gear. Let's start with BRD's famous level design. You've probably seen the famous BRD map showcasing the dungeon's layout. As impressive as the map is, it pales in comparison to the awe-inspiring details on the ground floor. Upon zoning into the instance, players will immediately notice a metal door on the left side of the starting room. The door is obviously locked.
Didn't you need a key for that?
By placing an obstacle at the entrance of the dungeon, the designers have deliberately created a sense of wonder in your mind. What's behind the door? Is there a chest? A quest objective? Perhaps a secret boss? I don't know, but I can't wait to find out.
Yeah, Shadow 4
And unlike many games that grab your attention, only to let it slip away with poor world design, BRD continues to deliver. As you venture deeper into the twisting labyrinth, the mystique of the Dark Iron capital begins to reveal itself. Beyond the first trash pack is a detention center, where prisoners are left to hang from the ceiling. Around the corner is the infamous Ring of Law, where judgment is passed upon the enemies of the Dark Iron clan. And if you escape judgment, you'll stumble upon the Grim Guzzler, heart of the city and dormitory to the merciless jailers that surround you. The various rooms and corridors of BRD are so immersive that the dungeon doesn't even feel like a dungeon. It feels like an entire leveling zone, packed full of interesting characters, evolving storylines, and most importantly, secret passageways. Remember that door I showed you? It can be opened using the Shadowforge key, a quest reward obtainable only through death. There are several other keys that unlock secret routes throughout the dungeon, such as the Grim Guzzler key, which is acquired by pickpocketing the Guzzler's barkeeper. By incorporating these secret doors and keys into the zone's layout, the original designers had made BRD one of the most replayable dungeons in history, as with each visit, a player could unlock more and more of the dungeon's content.
This was so good, man.
Additionally, the keys granted players a heightened sense of agency, as certain keys could be used to bypass undesirable areas. This brilliant design philosophy keeps players coming back for more, while still delivering fresh, exciting gameplay. I could talk about BRD level design for hours, but I think you get the point. Before I move on though, I do want to recognize the genius behind BRD's layout, and that would be John Statz. John was the first 3D level designer employed by the WoW team back in the early 2000s, and he's designed legendary zones such as Blackrock.
Just real quick, what the fuck happened to the key ring? Like, what the fuck happened to the key ring? You remember the key ring? Like, I felt good. Like, I would collect every key in the game. There was an achievement for collecting every key in the game. It was called the Keymaster. And I had that achievement on, like, the first day that it came out. Like, man, I think about, like, all these little fucking things, dude. And it's just, like, there were so many, like, RPG elements of the game, like keys and just, like, attunements and all this stuff, like resistance gear, defense rate, like, all this, man, it just is fucking depressing to remember. Like, dude, I cannot fucking wait until Classic comes out, man. And, like, honestly, it's about to come out, right? It could be any minute here. But, like, I cannot wait till it comes out and people see how fucking good that shit used to be. And you have all of these casual bad players that realize that in Classic, they can actually handle it. Because in BFA, they don't have the reaction time to deal with the Firelands, or not a Firelands, a Freehold trash mob. But in Classic WoW, that's a whole boss mechanic, right? And that's it. Like, the bad players that are complaining about Classic being too hard are the ones that Classic was really designed for.
Fire, Skolomance, Blackwing Lair, Warsong Gulch, and even Karazhan. The guy knows level design.
Fucking
and if you
dude,
hadn't
that
heard,
guy made fucking
he recently
Karazhan.
published a book called The World of Warcraft Diary,
Fucking
which
Karazhan.
details the development cycle of Vanilla WoW. I've personally read the diary, and I can tell you it is an absolute must-read for any gamer. But yeah,
Hell
just a quick
yeah.
shout out to John for crafting some of the most epic experiences in gaming history.
Fucking,
let's get
dude,
back to
Karazhan was
business.
one of the best dungeons.
Level design wasn't the only
Dude, imagine this guy. He made BRD and Karazhan. Like, I mean, what the fuck else is there even to say?
standout feature of the depths. The boss encounters
That's why he's bald. Is because his brain is actually so fucking big that the hair just it just gets out of the way. I'm serious. That's what it is, man.
great too. While most bosses in Vanilla were straightforward tank and spanks, BRD pushed the boundaries of encounter design by adding several unique mechanics. Examples of these mechanics would be the fire traps deployed in the Magnus fight, the cleverly narrow bridge used in the Incendius fight, and the creeping lava spawn mechanic in the Flamelash fight. These mechanics might seem elementary today, but back in 2005, utilizing a boss's room layout as a weapon was unprecedented in the MMO genre, and the innovation didn't stop there. BRD also expanded on the concept of event-based encounters, which were used to break up the monotony of traditional boss fights. We already mentioned the Ring of Law. This Colosseum-style wave encounter was one of the first randomly selective boss fights in the game, a mechanic we would eventually see more of over the course of WoW's history.
Thank God, we
the
need more of
Lyceum
this.
event was also groundbreaking. The event is a callback to the Mines of Moria sequence in Lord of the Rings.
Yep.
It's just epic on a whole nother level, and showed the
Yep.
potential of what dungeon events could actually be. But
The moment that you walked into that room and you saw all of those mobs, there is nobody that ever did that dungeon back in Classic that didn't just say, fuck. Like, it's just like, okay. It's like you at that point, you had been in the dungeon for like 4 hours, and you walk in and you look at the Mines of Moria, basically, and there are these fire keepers that you have to kill, and the mobs are everywhere, and your tank is blind, so you know that these mobs are going to kill you, and you just do it anyway because it's for the quest, and this is all you have to do. Like, it was just so good, man.
my absolute favorite event in BRD would have to be the barroom brawl at the Grim Guzzler. Upon destroying the kegs in this small, secluded corridor,
This part was good.
players will be immediately attacked by several Dark Iron drunks, turning an innocent room inspection into an all-out bar fight. Bear in mind, nothing in the game tells you to break these kegs. There are no arrows or menu prompts that direct you to do so. This is a completely hidden encounter, designed to reward observant players who took the time to explore their surroundings. And these bosses weren't just nameless NPCs. In Blackrock Depths, almost every boss in the dungeon came with a unique backstory. Ambassador Flamelash, who we mentioned before, is the servant of Sulfur and Harbinger, one of the bosses in the Molten Core, and the first of many Flamewalkers to be encountered in World of Warcraft.
Now, why did they have so many of those in WoW? Does anybody know why? Because they probably ran out of budget to make new mobs. So they just added the same one and they gave it a different name. Yeah, they ran out of time. And so they just had to get something out there real quick. Like, didn't they make Molten Core in 1 week or something like that? Like, I remember reading about that. I forgot who said that or when I heard that, but I think, yeah, they made Molten Core in 1 week. And like, imagine that. Imagine they make Molten Core in 1 week. That's like God. God made the world in 7 days. Blizzard was only 3 days late on Molten Core. That's pretty fucking good. And now we have to wait like months. Like it takes them longer to fix a small bug now than it did for them to make a raid. I just, oh, man.
Baelgar, inspired by the
made him
Tolkien
say- yeah, one
Balrog, was a
fucking dude,
molten
two freaking
giant
dudes.
pulled from the Firelands by Ragnaros himself to guard an ancient doorway, the purpose of which remains
Okay.
unknown. And how could we forget the story of Emperor Daegrin Tharasan, ruler of the
Because
Dark
I didn't
Iron
read the
clan,
quest, that's how
who
I can
kidnapped
forget it.
Princess Moira Bronzebeard as a hostage before falling in love with her and dying by her side. All epic storylines that concluded within the dungeon. In
Hey.
fact, Blackrock Depths was so rich with lore that most of Vanilla's raids were also connected to the city. Why
Yep.
do you think the portal to the Molten Core was originally placed in BRD? Because Ragnaros was summoned to Azeroth by Tharasan. Why did the Onyxia Attunement quest require so many visits to the depths? Because, well, I don't want to spoil it. The point is, BRD wasn't just a randomly generated dungeon crawl. It was a storied expedition into the depths of hell itself and into
Fuck
the lives of
yes,
various
dude.
characters who were just trying to
Fuck
do the right
yes,
thing.
dude.
If you want to learn more about the lore
Fuck
behind
yes,
the dungeon, you can
dude.
check out Nobble's story video on Blackrock Mountain, which I've linked in the description below. It's actually really cool. So at this point in the video, we've discussed the genius behind BRD's immersive level design, progressive encounter design, and epic lore design, but we haven't talked about the most important aspect of any dungeon. Friggin' loot.
Oh,
Loot rewards are the biggest incentive
There
to
it
pursue
is.
content.
There it is,
Blizzard has
dude.
even said as much. And when it comes to rewards, Blackrock Depths has some of the best in the game.
Iron
the
Foe.
Hand of Justice, a trinket that drops
Oh,
off
that
of
shit was
Tharasan,
OP,
is so
dude.
good for some classes that it doesn't get replaced until AQ or Nax.
Yeah, it's
Iron Foe
ridiculous.
is pre-raid best in slot for Fury Warriors and is also purple, so bonus points. And
So I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to get Iron Foe because it's going to take too much time. And realistically, like I'm probably going to do BRD like 5 times and that's going to be it. Okay? Like there's no fucking way I'm going to do BRD more than like 5 times, right? And also like you got to remember that I might actually tank for my guild. Because here's my thing, okay? If I don't tank for my guild, then I can't rationalize giving myself the first Thunder Fury. Okay, I just can't do it. So that's the main issue. But the problem there is if I can't rationalize Thunder Fury, I either have to rationalize Thunder Fury or Sulfuras. I can't do both, and I don't really know how I want to handle that. Fun fact about Iron Foe, during the Horde, you can do lava runs in 7 to 10 minutes Emperor kills. I don't know about that, man. Is Thunder Fury better than Sulfuras? Well, yeah, because it's longer.
the Mantle of Lost Hope, one of the best healing pre-raid shoulders in the game, also drops in BRD off of Lord Rokar.
Yeah,
So many
it's
good
longer.
items drop
Everybody
in this
knows that.
dungeon that BRD remains relevant even after your first Molten Core clear. And not just because of the boss drops, but also because of the rep rewards. You may have heard of the Thorium Brotherhood reputation in
Yep.
vanilla, but what you may not know is that Loctos Darkbargner, the faction's quartermaster, is the only quartermaster to ever be placed inside a vanilla dungeon. The
Is that true? I think actually that is true. Yeah, because like, yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, probably. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good answer. Probably.
Faction's rep rewards are also completely mandatory for raiders, as many epic fire resist
You
patterns
needed
and
the fire
plans are
resist.
purchased from Loctos.
Yep.
Plans for the epic two-handed Nightfall Axe, a high priority debuff weapon, can also be purchased from Loctos. The guy sells some good stuff. But beyond
Dude, I just thought of the best idea for my guild. I'm gonna have Nightfall, and I'll be an arms warrior, so I don't have to respec for PvP. And my damage doesn't matter because I'm applying the Nightfall debuff. So I effectively have no responsibility at all. I don't have to respec to raid, and I'm extremely valuable. What the fuck, dude? Sometimes I scare myself with how smart I am. Every rep paladin ever? No, we're not. I mean, like, the thing is, like, I want to have a good guild. So I don't know how many rep paladins we're gonna. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, come on, man.
Beyond all these tangible power-based rewards is one that is intangible. The privilege of sitting on Thorasan's throne upon completing the dungeon.
Everybody
The
did
throne
it.
itself is not lootable, nor does it
Everybody
grant
did
you a buff, but there's something special about claiming a powerful seat after conquering your enemies.
Everybody
There's
did
something
it.
special about sitting on that throne. Blackrock Depths is an absolute masterpiece of game design. To this day, it's still considered among many to be the greatest dungeon the MMORPG genre has ever seen, and I've gotta say, I have to agree. The dungeon even has its own special forge, for God's sakes, where you can craft the Sulfuran hammer part of Sulfur's Hand of Ragnaros.
Dude, like, you guys didn't even fucking know about this. Inside of fucking BRD, there is a special forge. It's called the Black Anvil, and you have to craft the Dark Iron gear at the Black fucking Anvil. And so you had to go into this dungeon just to craft the gear. And if you wanted to make dark iron ingots in order to craft the dark iron gear, you had to go to the Black Forge or whatever the fuck it was called. It was so good, man. It was fucking beautiful. Like, we knew that? No, you didn't.
It's truly a unique place shaped by brilliant level design, innovative encounters, and some of the best lore vanilla WoW has to offer. Of all the adjectives I could use to describe BRD, only one comes to mind.
Good.
Genius. But thanks for watching the video, guys. If you liked what you saw, sub it up and stick around because we got more coming. A quick shout out to all of my friends on Patreon who help make videos like this possible. If you'd like to support these videos as well, I've left the Patreon link in the description for you. And for more classic WoW and vanilla content, you can check me out live on Twitch at twitch.tv/tipsoutbaby. Have a wonderful day, fellas. I'll see you guys on Twitch. And as always, tips out, baby.
I really do think that BRD is probably my favorite dungeon of all time. And I don't know, like, the thing is that, like, one thing that's going to be really good about Classic is it's actually going to give people that way to just compare vanilla versus retail right there next to each other. There's no kind of bullshit like, oh, well, you know, this was like back in the day or whatever. You're actually going to have both of them right next to each other and say, this was good, this is why, and compare it in real time. How shit vanilla was? There's going to be some people that feel that way. I can guarantee you there are going to be people that start out playing vanilla and they're like, wow, this is so great. And then they get to like level 24 and they realize that they have to group up with somebody and nobody wants to play with them. Or maybe they do dead mines and they have 2 tanks leave and, you know, like in their group and now they're mad. Or maybe they get all the way up to Scarlet Monastery and they spend 35 minutes running all the way up there, getting everything done, right? They get up to Scarlet Monastery, their tank leaves, they hearth back because they wanted to find somebody else in trade chat, but then they realized that they didn't pick up the flight path to chill in point and they had to ride all the way back up there and they just quit the fucking game on the spot. You're right. There's going to be a lot of fucking things. And yes, I don't know where that example came from. I don't know. You know, maybe somebody did that a while ago. I don't know.